Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me today as we continue the mid-year celebration. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, book proposal specialist, podcaster, and author of Your Goal Guide and 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. You can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. So every week I bring together some of my people, and for celebrating the mid-year, July is the new January, I am featuring some of the awesome people who I interviewed in 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. And one of the things that I love about this book is I know all the people I talked to were from my network. See where I'm going with this? Or intros for people who were already in my circle. And you can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. I said it before, I'll say it again. I will keep saying it. And today we have with us Dave Bricker, Jess Dewell, and Jeff Pulver. And I believe Dave is the only one from this conversation in the networking section of the book. Does not matter. That was kind of fun, actually, because a lot of the tips that I got could go in every which way. But again, love to mix and match my people. You might be watching this as GoalChat Live. You might be listening to us. You might be watching the replay. I said that backwards. You might be watching the replay or listening to us as GoalChat on the Marketing Podcast Network. No matter how you found us, we are so glad you're here and talking networking today. Or as I say, go meet people, because action is the heart of the whole shebang. Because if you stay in one place, you're not getting where you need to go. I know. I love the obvious. Friends, I'm going to let you introduce yourself better, because so far all people know is you're awesome and you're in my book. So, Dave, why don't you start us out by sharing who you are and why you love to go meet people?
Who am I? I work with really smart people who have the smart person's curse. And what that means is they have these brilliant ideas in their heads, and that's all great until they try to explain it. And then it starts, well, before I tell you this, you have to understand this, and this is connected to that, but this is also, and the next thing you know, it's all over the place. So I am a business storytelling expert, and I help people put their stories together so that other people can understand them and engage with them. As far as going out to meet people, well, I mean, isn't that just part of survival, whether it's business survival or social survival? If you don't meet anybody, you're standing still.
Okay. Love the very specific and very direct answer. And we will talk about this more. But let's meet Jess.
Hey, glad to be here today with such amazing people. I am Jess Dewell, and at Red Direction, we are working on growth strategy. And this is a little different than what you would think about of bringing in an MBA and doing all of these things, because guess what? What got you here won't get you there, but you can keep what you have without throwing it all out for a brand new system, because there's some really great things in your unique selling proposition and the way that you show up in the world that matters. And how I know this is because I talk to people all the time. And in talking to people and meeting those people, the stories, the strengths, the fears, the excitement all come out. And if we weren't having those conversations, I wouldn't be doing what I was doing. So cheers to meeting new people.
And we met because our friend Pam Barraway, in the year, it's Jeff, you're going to love it, because there is a Twitter, I refuse to call it the other word, connection. Jeff used to run 140 conference, which is how we met. Get there in a second. But Pam used to go to my GoalChat Twitter chat, and then one day you were sourcing experts for some column, and she tagged me.
Yep.
And here we are, more probably 5-ish years later.
At least.
But we started because in a conversation on LinkedIn, she tagged us and said, brilliant minds connect. So love the way that we meet people and continue the conversations. And Jeff is the only person from tonight's crew who I know in real life.
In real life.
In person.
In person.
And I'll let you introduce yourself in a second.
Well, actually, you can why don't you introduce me, since I'm trying to figure out which version we'd introduce.
Well, how about I will share how I met you, and you can consider all the different ways you want to introduce yourself while I am doing so.
Go for it.
I had heard about 140 conference. This is back in 2010.
2009. We did.
No,
2009,
I first discovered it in 2010 because a friend of mine won tickets to go to the one in LA. And I decided that I wanted to speak there. And at the time, you were doing all of the pre-party events. So I went to an event at the Comedy Store, and not to give all of Jeff's words away, but he talks about how he got his start in ham radio when he was a kid. And I said, when I was in high school, I was friends with all the ham radio guys. So if we were in high school together, we would have been friends. And we've been friends ever since. So there you go. And no, not a ham radio operator, just a friend of the hams.
But it goes back to a passion to communicate, to connect, to share, to engage, and to really be present. And so for me, it's always been about connecting. And so if I'll tease my niece Emily that I'm a time traveler, but really it's about the here, what, where, and how you connect. Because I do enjoy giving speeches about the history of the future as much as anything else. And what does that really mean is that, what is time anyway? It's, life is all about energy, vibration, and frequency. And when you connect, you can sometimes connect with memories from 40 years ago. Particularly if you're packing, all of a sudden you're moving and you see something you haven't seen in so many years, and now you're brought back to that moment, even though you're sitting in the present. Or you hear someone speak and it reminds you of where you were, and you hear where they're going, and you see that timeline. And so there's a parallelism here. And for me, for really going back 30 years, I've been hosting breakfast networking events where I ask people 3 basic questions: where they're from, I ask them their name, where they're from, and something they're passionate about outside the work they do. And I find by having people have the opportunity just to speak those words has helped facilitate an infinite number of connections and reconnections over time in many cities around the world, in many places. And so I don't have a word for that. The vCon Foundation, which I did start, is all about virtualized conversations, which it actually could pertain here very easily because it provides context to how we connect and how we communicate. But for this show's purposes, I think the biggest takeaway is to learn to be who you are and not to be afraid of yourself. And when you go out into the world, while it may be difficult to explain what you do in 5 words or less, if you just be who you are, you got it.
And if you love what you do, that should be the thing that you are doing.
Yeah, and not have to defend it either. I mean, it gets to be very intimidating when you go into some places and you do something where you feel comfortable, but all of a sudden you're around these other folks and they have jobs with a word, 2 words, and the work you do is like paragraphs. Or as Dave would say, someone has to spend 5 minutes explaining something when maybe they're 5 seconds. Instead of 5 minutes, you could say it in 5 seconds. Maybe you could say it in 3 words. But sometimes people don't even appreciate the magic of who they are, so they don't know how to contain it or pitch themselves. And so, having been the receiver and the pitcher, I can tell you, short is great. Being understood, though, that's the magic.
It's really funny that you're saying this. So Dana Steele's tip in the book is be able to explain what you do in 3 words. So you don't even get 5, you get 3. And Dave's was begging never helped a relationship. I mean, that one will always continue to stand out in my head. So what does that mean? We're going to do a quick round robin of your secrets and then jump into how you use the things to make these connections. So go first, Dave. And you're still muted.
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I said, so your secret in the book was begging never helped a relationship.
Okay, so you want to comment on that?
Yes.
So essentially, begging never helped a relationship is an allusion to romantic relationships, of course, but everybody comes, especially to networking, everybody comes to sell and nobody comes to buy, and everybody is begging, oh, will you do business with me? Oh, can I help you with something? Oh, can I get into your wallet? And this whole begging thing is so different from what can I help you with? How can I listen to you? How can I offer you some sort of valuable transformation? And switching from begging to offering is key, I think, to building successful business relationships, inspiring reciprocity.
Got it. And also, if you show up again as this person, no need to beg, because it just is, right? I'm going to go out of order because Jeff's secret in the book was part of the action. No, it was the self-care. It's worrying is a waste of time.
Yes.
Which I feel like, duh.
But it may be obvious, right? But it really goes to your standing in your power, because when you let go of worrying is a waste of time. I learned that growing up, and when you let go of the things you can't control, and you embrace the things you can control, then you stand in your power. And when you stand in your power, then you know that the moment that happened already has happened. All you can control is the now that you're in. And then from that moment, you then can do what you want to do, and you can prioritize and make what you want to have happen. So worrying is a waste of time, and you learn to just navigate and be you. Magic prevails, and it requires a lot of confidence to let go. For some people, it's scary, because a lot of people say, go with the flow. I remember finding a poster that says only dead fish go with the flow. So when you can be the flow yourself, let go of your worry, you get to be the king or the queen of your life. You get to be you, and you're empowered to decide what to do, and you are in charge. So, because if we can't control, because there are things in life we can't control, right? And the things we can't. So we let go of what we can't control, and you stop worrying, then you truly do have control of that stage, that theater, the life that you, as you define it. And so for a lot of people, it's so hard to let go of worrying because they don't know how to deal with the reality they're in. But when they learn to let go, embrace self-love, and understand they're here for a reason, and they can find their purpose, magic prevails. And I believe in magic.
Well, you got to believe in magic, because there are certain things you just cannot explain. And it also feeds really into the whole time thing. The time doesn't
which is why I
speak
exist,
about right?
Which is why I talk about time travel, right? Because it's that reality that we create. Sometimes we get lost in it. Sometimes we forget where we are, who we are. But at the end of the day, if you're able to wake up, be present, be true to yourself, and make connections that matter, help broker sometimes, you want to help so many people sometimes want to help so many other people to forget about themselves. So while I do believe in giving, I also believe in self-love and self-care and finding the time to be present for you. Because if you're not nurturing yourself, it's very difficult for you to give to anybody else. And sometimes that blindsides you. So there's a lot about, worrying is a waste of time, because that really unwinds an entire philosophy that my dad taught me. And so it's something which I live as best as I can to do that.
And it ties perfectly into Jess's secret, which is preserve time to nurture your business. And you were one of the people who, when I interviewed you for the book, I knew that this was going to be your thing, and I was very excited about it. So yes. What does that mean? So it's not just about living in the now; it's protecting the now for your future, right?
Yes. And to take that into a slightly different perspective, one, we show up when we can know ourselves and how we relate to others. Then we can actually stand next to the business we are running, the team that we are leading, the mission that we are spearheading, and treat it as something that is separate with us, that we're taking with us. It allows us to see what decisions, what priorities really can help us right now, what the right next step is. And so this concept of present is incredibly important to me, because what I have found over the years is that people are really good at making decisions from what's already happened, or they're really good at making decisions from what they see and they're building toward. And so being able to take those and bring them back to right now, because usually it's more than one of us running a business, growing a business, moving something greater than ourselves out there for the benefit of the world. And it's a skill to be able to do that. And when we take the time to do that each week, then not only can we take any work that we're doing on ourselves, we can take all of that same concept and bring it to our business, which is what creates our future today, right? The actions we take today determine our relevance and our ability to stay in business tomorrow and in the future.
In thinking about it, there's also a secret about future casting and predicting predicting future you. So it feels like, there's so many themes within themes within themes, but basically what we do now is we create tomorrow with whatever it is. And if you want to, I'm going to bring it back to the topic, when you want to meet people, meet the good people with which you will bond with, maybe not tomorrow, maybe the next week, but to find your champions, you need to show up as your best you. So before we get into the whole, where do you meet people? We're going to make this really simple. What do you do so you are showing up as your best self when you go out into the world? So Dave, how do you show up as your best you?
I think I just try to, again, be my authentic self. I do what I do. I don't cross my own boundaries. I set boundaries with other people and don't allow them to cross mine. And I just communicate clearly and plainly with the understanding that some people are going to like me and respect me for the same reasons that other people are going to dislike me and disrespect me. But they either like me or I don't, but it's not because of some pretense I'm putting on. So if somebody decides that they don't want to work with me because they like somebody else's style better, that's all fine. And if they do want to work with me because they like my style, the way I put ideas together or whatever it is, then great. We're that much farther down the road of building a successful relationship. Dr. Margarita Guri said it very well. When all else fails, just pretend to be yourself.
Okay, and there's a whole authenticity question which comes up frequently. It almost feels like the most ridiculous question ever to ask, because how do you be authentic? You just are. So how do you respond to that?
Well, I think that's a life journey, because we're always trying to figure out who we really are, what we really want, who we really want to be with. And it's a moving target because we're growing and changing. Maybe it's easier for some people than it is for others. But I think as long as we stay on that journey of self-exploration and growth and try to keep listening and learning, then it's just a matter of staying on that path. It's like happiness. It's not a destination. It's a journey.
Oh, we're just all about the pithy quotes today. I love it. But just because it's pithy does not mean it is not true. Okay, let me see how many more quadruple negatives I can do. Jess, how do you show up as you?
I just am. I know that when I go out in the world, there is going to be somebody I've not met before that I make eye contact with. And if I can get a smile, great. If I can just get 1 second of eye contact, great. Because I was seen, they were seen, there was a connection. Nothing else needs to happen sometimes. Just witnessing and being witnessed, whatever that is, could be the simplest form of what I do. And sometimes something crazy is happening. Usually my best experiences, by the way, are at the grocery store and in the park. Okay. So even though I have a baseball player son, I like baseball outside of that. We have a baseball stadium in our downtown in Kirkland, and I am always at the ball field and I am always at the grocery store. And so you meet some really great people in both places, and just being able to say something or see something or offer some help or ask a stranger in this, wherever you are, about something that is going on, starts that conversation, and then you never know where it's going to lead. Sometimes I never see those people again. Sometimes they become really good friends and they're family friends for life, all because eye contact and a smile.
I resemble the grocery store remark. The ball field, not so much, but I do go walking around my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And some weeks I see the same people over and over again, and some weeks I just see different people all the time. So it's really and it's pretty much the same path. I just zigzag a little differently, so I'm not bored. But grocery is literally the best place because you've got something everybody loves talking about, which is food.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
That's true. Well, and I'm there every day. I'm one of those people who live in a downtown, so I don't shop once a week. I shop every day, which puts me in my community every day.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
Fabulous. Okay, Jeff, how do you show up as you?
Breathe and be present. And really, that's the key, is to allow yourself to be in the moment, because how often do you go into a room and you're hit someplace else? And that's not giving anyone access to yourself because you're already distracted. So there are times I will turn off my devices. So I'm literally get rid of my notifications. I turn everything off. If I know I'm going to be in a place specifically, here, there, and I need to be in that moment, then I have to turn off the things that take me out of the moment. So that's key one. Two is to breathe and literally just allow myself to be in there and not to be afraid, and allow flow. Because for me, it's all about flowing. It's all about connecting. It's all about sharing. It's about engaging. It's sort of the secret to the old Twitter anyways. Listen, connect, share, and engage. Those were my words before, we shared words. And I use that in real life events as much as virtual events. And it's whatever it takes for you to allow yourself to listen to what other people are saying. And, I'm a horrible over talker. I will interrupt. I will speak. I will talk on top of others. You don't know. Never have that happened to me, Debra, right? But
we've been friends a long time. Yes.
The reality, though, is that part of, that's the thing about people versus AI, is that, most of the voice AI agents out there today are too damn polite. So that, when you and I are speaking, we're able to interrupt each other, and we're able to, if you don't hear me, you ask to repeat that. But if you're dealing with an AI agent, they're so polite, they don't say to repeat. They don't tell you they missed what you said. And that's why the first generation of voice AI that's out there, which I'm very much involved in, has this issue. Not that it's too polite, but there's a misunderstanding, a disconnect. There's something, there's an essence which is not happening. And so that is what I don't want to be when I'm at an event. I want to be listening. I want to be connecting, sharing, and engaging, because that special event of being in that moment where you connect with somebody else. It's sort of like if you're pitching someone a startup or an idea and you get to the aha. It's sort of it's hard to describe moment, but when someone gets to aha on a pitch, it's like they're your best friend, because you just took them over you just got over from one side to the other, and that mattered a lot. And when you're able to be present and allow yourself to connect with someone, the reality is the older you get, it's harder to make friends. It just is. And in fact, to make real friends takes a lifetime. And so when you're going out, if you don't think you're going to meet someone who's valuable, then you're wasting their time as much as your time. So be present, and also be open to new relationships, new connections, being able to be present for those who need you, even if you don't even appreciate the value that you bring to the table. Because for a lot of things you've done, if you've done it so many times, it's like no big deal. But you might very well be the reason why someone else does great, because the way the world is that them meeting you could change their life. Because one of my rules, of course, is the next person you meet can change your life. It's happened to me. It's happened many times where you just don't understand necessarily how you get connected or what happens because of this, because of that. So if you can walk into the room and allow yourself to be in that moment, you're opening up the possibilities for a countless number of things to just be. But it starts with you to let go of what distracts you, so you can be distracted by the audience that's there.
It's true.
Yeah, absolutely. You were gonna jump in, and then I was gonna completely agree with Jeff. But if you want to agree with him first, Jess, go right ahead.
I would love to, and I want to agree with Dave, because as they both were talking, my mind is spinning, and what bubbles to the top is my first German class of my first freshman year at K-State University, where I met one of my now longtime life friends, Christy. And it's just because I turned around and I said something, and before you know it, we were friends, and then we were living together, and now we're in different states, and we were, and all these years later, here we are, right? 30 years now, and it makes it's true, just showing up, being here, being in that moment.
The things that you all kind of mentioned. Well, the first thing is to be fully present. I go out walking and I put my phone in my pocket. And I keep my earbud just in case my phone rings. It rarely does, but occasionally. But I am amazed at how many people I see walking, even walking their dog and reading their phone. I'm like, you're with your dog, you're with your kid, put the phone away. And I just want to say something. It's like, it's a beautiful evening. Why aren't you just enjoying being present? So putting the phone away, whether it's on a walk or you're at an event. The other thing is you need to be feeling good, like your best you, when you go to an event, because if you don't, you're not going to bring your A game or even your B game. I was supposed to go to an event last week, and I was hired, but I really wanted to go. And I'm driving there, and when I got to the street, instead of turning left to go to the event, I turned right and went to Costco, because even though me at half whatever is better than a lot of people at 100%, I decided mentally, for me, filling my car up and getting a couple groceries was the better use of my time. So the next event, I can show up more present. So I think having that barometer and knowing when is a definite yes and when is a stay in the pillow fort will also help you, because when you're out in the world, you want to show up 100% as you. Okay, and I've stopped the conversation. You're welcome. So now let's get a little tactical. I mean, a little or a lot. And you've all alluded to this, but I want the direct answer, which is, what is your favorite way to meet people, or place or time in space continuum? Dave?
My favorite way to meet people is through referrals. And I have sent out hundreds of thousands of well-written emails and campaigns. I have posted video to 7 different social media channels every day. I've done all of the stuff that they say you're supposed to do. And 99% of my business is still referrals. And I got to a point where I realized that I was spending so much energy on 1% where I could be spending a lot more energy on what's bringing in 99%. So my number one way to meet people is when I get a call or a text from somebody and they say, so-and-so told me that I had to talk to you about my new book, or I've got a TEDx talk coming up, and Bruce says, Dave's the best coach, get with him, he'll get you through your TEDx, whatever it is. Those referrals turn into business and they turn into friendships. By far, the number one way I like to meet people.
Awesome. And we met, I'm trying to remember, I know we met at a networking event. Was it GEM or was it Bobby Carlton's Innovation Women? Because I think you're a ally. Or was it something else? Do you remember? Okay, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're here now. But yes, referrals, especially when you get you need to meet so-and-so. Absolutely. I have that as well.
Yeah. And there are some strategies we can get into for networking events in the traditional sense, because I know that's more what you're referring to. But by
Not
far, my
necessarily.
number one way to meet people is referrals.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to tactics in a minute. But yes, absolutely. And for those of you who don't know, this is my favorite way of networking. So it's if I haven't seen a friend in a while, I will bring them on. Or if I just met someone and they seem cool, I'll bring them on to GoalChat. Or if I want people to meet each other, and the three of you with the very similar mindset, but very different businesses coming together, I'm like, yeah, Deb, that was pretty good. So anyway, Jeff, what is your favorite way to meet people?
Well, that depends. Usually
I
it's
knew
over
I wasn't going to
coffee.
get a simple. I knew I wasn't going to get a simple answer.
No, look,
was
it's. I mean, right now for me, online. I mean, I've been today. I did 9 meetings today. 9 meetings, 7 of them with strangers. So I'd be remiss not to say that, connecting as quickly as I can, as virtual as I can. I mean, because I'm on a mission for some stuff I'm working on. And so I happen to be working with people literally around the world. So it's not practical for me to say, gee, I'll meet you for coffee and, name the city, because I know where I am, right? But at the same time, what do I prefer? I prefer having coffee with somebody or tea or just, going to a certain coffee shop in LA and hanging out and being present and then seeing who comes through the door. Sometimes this, anyway, so to answer your question, from a practical perspective, it's where I am. So if I happen to be near a computer, I certainly don't mind meeting somebody and being available to connect with them. And I have pretty public presence and people are not shy. So I'm pretty available that way. That said, I do enjoy hosting breakfast networking events to this very day. I don't do it as often. I love being hosted by you when I'm in LA to do other types of networking. And it's really just allowing yourself to be present. I am a conference person. I've been producing, I'm a content DJ. 29 years I've been curating the flows of conferences, mostly that I've done, where it's that energy of like the messages I want to carry, the people and who, and then how to flow it. And just like a DJ music, I'm DJing conversations. And then when someone cancels, I have to readjust the playlist, if you will. And Debra knows about this. And so and we had the 140 conference at the, in LA at the beautiful Kodak Theater at the time. And we had 140 people speak in 10 minutes, no more than the individual talks for 10 minutes each. And how do you flow that? So when I'm meeting people, I kind of look for an efficiency, but at the same time, presence. So ideally coffee in the morning, not late at night, not late. I just like morning coffee or online. And then I also host a networking group. I still do Zula myself on Thursday mornings, too early on West Coast time. But I enjoy creating a safe space for people to connect and share and engage, that just be themselves and to just allow themselves to be. And I respect that greatly.
I remember in one of your pre-pandemic visits to LA, probably 2019, 2020, because we were working on a project, and I picked you up at the airport. We went for lunch, and we're not sitting down 5 minutes, and somebody walks by and says, Jeff, someone who lives in Florida came up to him in LA within like 5 minutes of walking into a restaurant. So that was pretty.
But that's LA. It could be, I'm not an actor or a musician, so I'm just Jeff, so it's okay. But for anyone else in LA, it's normal. For me, it's a little abnormal, but it's good.
Well, I feel in LA, you can either run into people all the time or never. It's just a matter of how you approach every situation. I had a chat with a woman I met because I was waiting for her to pack her car so I could pull my car out. And we went on LinkedIn and we have 8 mutual connections. And then the next day I met someone that was important for me to introduce to her. So,
Wow.
You just don't know.
That's magical. That's magic.
It is the power of the universe. Jess, what is your favorite way to meet people?
Well, I'm going to start with the fact that one of the things that I do for self-care is also self-learning. And where am I developing a skill, a mindset, an approach? Maybe it's health and wellness related. Maybe it's presence and just energetically wherever I'm already doing the work for myself, I'll talk to the stranger first that I don't know over people that I do know. We already have something in common in that space too. So I can take something that I'm already doing for myself, and when I have fulfilled that, now I am in a place to be my whole self and invite somebody else to a conversation, knowing that finding the common ground is easier in that capacity. Since I already shared, I talk to strangers all the time. Some stay and some go. That would be one way that, another way that hasn't been shared yet.
Okay, so talking to strangers in the process of doing other things, right?
Well, in my case, specifically for myself, because I'm going to bring back something both Dave and Jeff talked about that I think is really important, and that is our own wellness, our own being. How well do we trust ourselves, know ourselves, and can we be present in that always? So I would say specifically that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and apparently there are people who are these things called introverts who are not great at the whole meeting, getting out of their head, getting out of their comfort zone. Wait, are you an introvert, Dave, or you're giving yeah, really?
Oh, I'm a very deep, very deep introvert, highly compensated, but yeah, borderline autistic introvert. Highly compensated, but yeah.
Really? Okay.
And that people, it's always funny to me because people come and say, oh, you must be the biggest extrovert. And I always laugh. But I mean, a lot of professional speakers are introverts, but that's a whole separate topic. We could.
Yeah. No one would ever accuse me of being an introvert. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Deep introvert. I just fake it well.
What about you, Jess? Introvert, extrovert, omnivert?
Well, my brother-in-law calls himself a middlevert. Turns out that I think that's the omnivert. Somebody made it a little more of an official thing. I am actually 100% extrovert, and my husband is 100% introvert. And so we get along great. Most of my friends actually are somewhere in the middle to introverted. My closest, longest friends. Apparently I'm enough for a lot of people, which is great. I'll take that too. But I also collect people. So that is something that I can fully appreciate. And I think it doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert for that. I think some people just have that personality. Oh, you're cool. You get to be part of my crew. You're cool. I really want you to be part of my world. And I know I'm speaking a little personally here. I think though that's how we show up in our business too. So as the leaders that I work with, that's the perspective with which I'm sharing at the moment.
I think I use the word connector, but yes, I guess I'm a people collector as well.
I collect. Mm-hmm.
Right. Because one of the things I talk about in your goal guide is you have your connections and you have your connectors. So your connections are the people in your world. Your connectors are the ones like all of us who, if you need anything, if they don't know it, they know your person. Mm-hmm. Jeff, which are you? I mean, I think you grew up as an introvert.
Yeah, I think, look, I did, right? And so I think it's more like if you just backward engineer the event, right? So if you're hosting the event and you're an introvert, it doesn't work. So in fact, hosting gives me a chance to be present and I have a reason to say hi to everybody who's there because I'm the host. And particularly, it was interesting in South by Southwest when people didn't know me and they were crashing the event, and they clearly didn't. We had an invitation list, and I was looking to create a curated experience. And so, if I was passive, it wouldn't work. But if I'm in an environment, so to me, there's a multiple steps. You can be both an introvert and an extrovert depending upon circumstance, almost like a chameleon. Because frankly, if I'm invited to someone's event and I don't know the host or the co-host, and I'm a friend of a friend of a friend, I'd much rather probably not be there. I might as well just lean against the wall and provide support. However, from hosting the event, I don't mind being front and center. And if I'm going to a conference, I'd much rather, if it's not my event, if I'm not on stage at that conference and I'm not friends with the people in the audience, I will be pretty introverted. It's because how do you break the ice? Do I tell people, yeah, I helped change your life, you just don't know it because of the work that I've done? No, because that's pretty obnoxious. But the reality is I may have done that. And and so I'd rather just be in places where I know I like myself. I don't have to defend who I am. I don't have to explain my being. It's like, yeah, because I have had the fortunate circumstance to be around all sorts of interesting people, and I'm much better off not knowing that someone is famous and talking to them, because then the fact that they were so and so and I had no idea about it, how embarrassed I am. It's okay. I think they get the kicks that I actually didn't know who they were. It's like a few years ago, I was at a cocktail reception and I randomly started talking about collecting comic books when I was a 9-year-old kid. That I was the youngest. First time I was ever on TV is because I was at a comic book convention in New York, and it turns out, who am I talking to? A guy who worked at DC Comics for 55 years. He had retired as president, because he's talking and he's telling me about comic books, getting up and interning someplace. And at one point he mentioned that he was working on the storyline, I think for a Supergirl or for a Wonder Woman. I said, don't you need people's permission if you're going to be worrying about it? I ran DC Comics. And then I realized he's at the Comic-Con Hall of Fame. And it's like, excuse me, I didn't know. And I think he allowed the conversation to continue only because I had no idea who he was. So if I knew who he was, I never would have spoke to him like that. And I probably would have just hang out in the corner of the room. So I believe I'm both an introvert and an extrovert. And think about family relationships. If you ever go someplace where it's family related, you're allowed to be very quiet. Sometimes you're very noisy. And sometimes you want to be quiet, because if you get to be quiet, you get to hear what's going on. It's sort of like, why do I go under dark skies to photograph the stars? The quiet and the ability to just be one with nature and don't have to deal with the noise. And it's, I don't know, for me. So I take the exception to the rule. I greatly appreciate the word sage wisdom being shared. I just think that we have to, again, it comes to who you are. If I have yet to find a way to overcome my shyness in certain circumstances. I just have not done that. And I am shy. I'm very, very shy, but I'm also not so shy. And it's depends on if I have a microphone.
Right.
If you understand, I think I may have not said the right word combinations, Debra, but I think you know what I'm saying.
This is a conversation. There are no wrong answers. You're good. One thing that I do is if I'm in an event or at a Zoom room, because I always, especially at a Zoom room, and then we're going to circle to Dave because he wanted to give some insight for that. But if we're in a Zoom and they're like, who wants to go first? I always want to go first. So I try to never go first. Because for me, counterintuitive is, choose me, love me, pick me. And then when it's silent for 60 seconds, okay, fine, I'll go. I mean, so I try to go opposite to my instinct to give other people the stage first. And sometimes it works, and usually it does not. Dave, you wanted to share some insights for making connections in these non-grocery store environments.
Well, these traditional networking events, honestly, these things are difficult for me because the premise is that we're going to get a bunch of people in the room and they're going to wander around exchanging business cards, trying to figure out how to break the ice and then how to walk away when somebody's not a good prospect. And it gets very difficult. So my number one strategy is be the speaker at the event. That's really easy because then afterward, the people who are interested in me come up to me, and it saves me a whole lot of back and forth and wandering around because it's 30% realtors and 30% financial analysts who want to manage my portfolio. And there's the holistic plumber and there's there's just a certain demographic in the room, and there might be one or two people who are really good fits for me, but to go through the crowd to find them is so inefficient. So when I can, I've worked with some event hosts, and I said, why don't we try something? I call it lead with a need, because like I said, everybody goes to a networking event trying to sell something rather than buy something. Said instead of selling what you do, get in a small group of people and talk about what are you looking for? What do you want help with? What is your weak spot? What do you need? Lead with a need. And then instead of just the people in front of you or the person in front of you, they are now searching their whole database thinking, who can I find who would be a good resource for Dave? And we did this and we got to round one and that was it. We were ringing bells and blowing whistles. We could not get people away from each other. That was it. They were glued to those conversations because instead of trying to qualify a lead, they were actively trying to help each other out. And I found that was very possible. So as arrogant as this may sound, I think traditional networking is just done wrong most of the time, and we need to find some ways to take the twerking out of networking.
Nice one.
That was really good. Yeah, I think that the real word instead of networking is relationship development, because you meet people and you have no idea, and maybe they will stay in your life forever, or maybe you will never see them again. But you're like taking other people out for a spin, basically. And I always say, unless they're a red flag, you might as well connect with them on LinkedIn and then see what happens. Jeff gave the example of hosting events is a great way also to meet people or be in front of people. Jess, what is your secret for handling these kinds of events?
Well, I do both. And like you, and like you too, right? The Bold Business podcast came from, I was having all these cool conversations. I turned around and I was sharing it when people were telling me what they were looking for. And I was like, what would happen if I just started recording them? Well, 9 years later, here we are. And that's just this iteration of it. And so I believe that there is a way. This is all a great place to start. And I believe that we will each have our own unique way. So what I guess I could add to introvert, extrovert, and maybe this tactical piece would be just a quick self-evaluation. I cannot take credit for this. I actually got this from the person, Donnie Epstein, who created the type of chiropractic care I receive called network spinal analysis. He actually, when working with people, has found that there are 3 ways that they approach the world: through behavior, I do, taking action; through perspective, I'm pausing to think; and through structure. Maybe if I have some lanes in place, I will know what to do, or I have a list and I know I can do something with this list, or I'm making the list to then take the action, or making the list to think about, right? So, and they're all interplaying. We do one of them first. And if we know which one of those we do, that will help us, because if we're going to an event and we're more the structure, we know, cool, I've got this much time. I'm looking for these kinds of people. Maybe I'm looking to help these kinds of people. And I actually think, Jeff, you might actually be this structure-y type of thing, since you're doing this DJ work. As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, the way you put this together, it's like a puzzle. That is so cool. And Dave, I'm thinking that you are actually probably the action person. I am, right? The behavior piece. I know what I want. I'm going to take the action ahead of time. I've done the thought process. I'm that too. When I meet people who are perceptive, this concept of perception, a couple of things happen in their world. You might see somebody and the first response to everything is, nope, thanks though. Or they keep you at arm's length for the first 2 or 3 meetings, even though you know they might be right, even though you know there was a connection and you found common ground. A pause is built into them, which, by the way, is one of the reasons I built the Present Retreat, this concept of a pause for specifically our business and how we're showing up in it, because we don't pause enough. And if we do, we don't recognize we're taking that pause intuitively, and that there's great power to unlock. So that's what I would add to this part of the conversation. Nothing me personally, but some insight that I have gleaned from the network chiropractic care I've been doing for, 20 years or so.
If I could jump in for 1 second.
Yes,
Debra,
please.
I think one of the things that Dave brought up, which I think is really important, is understanding about the networking side and what happens when it becomes transactional. And the reality is that sometimes people, I can't tell you how many people used to still reach out to me on LinkedIn because they're trying to sell me something I don't need, all the time. And so those actions hurt my ability to use LinkedIn the way I want to, which is to actually identify people I want to talk to. because I'm truly interested in what they're doing. I have nothing to sell other than knowledge and awareness to a whole bunch of computer science stuff that I focus on. And when relationships are truly only transactional, they're really not necessarily relationships in the way that we're talking about building friendships or building something that's going to last more than a moment. And so I respect the need to have transactions. Commerce is all about transactions, but I don't necessarily put friends in the transaction side of things. And so I find it very challenging, right? Because there are strangers who reach out to me on LinkedIn to be introduced to someone, which is only just, they say, well, Sam Jones. And it's like, do I? Who is this person? Who is this person? It just gives me a reason to disconnect to the other person, because there was a time when I was on LinkedIn when it first happened, when I only was connected to people I knew. And then when Microsoft bought LinkedIn, I said, anyone who sends me an incoming request, I'll just say yes. But now I'm pruning. And so I've been spending a disproportionate amount of my free time disconnecting from people who I've never had conversations with, people who are definitely not in areas where I'm passionate about, where there's no common denominator. And I think there's a whole other show about building relationships, but respecting the lane for transactions when we do business, and respecting the lane to build relationships, to have those relationships, because there comes a time in someone's life they may have to ask a favor, and they can lean in and ask a friend a favor. I'm not going to ask a transactional person a favor, because it's just not what I do. And I find that if I'm commoditized, I don't like it. If I'm appreciated, I'll do it 100 times. So being grateful and showing gratitude is really important along the way, and sharing and appreciate the other person's presence. It's not giving a present, but just appreciating their presence. That, to me, I think, is part of being able to continue to do what you do, whether you're hosting, connecting, sharing, engaging, and being you. It's why some things are evergreen. It's why the advice in your book will forever be useful, because you were able to, as an editor and as a curator of that book, take the essence of life advice that every generation needs to hear and every generation needs to know, and they learn from what your friends have shared.
Thank you. I think so. The thing that I love the most about the book is, like I said, they're all people I know, people I've interviewed, longtime friends, newer friends. And then I would say, okay, who do you know who needs to be in the book? And I expanded my network from that. And I remember when I was making that request, I said they had to be someone I would be friends with and of a giving spirit. And then I realized that was redundant, because to be someone I would be friends with, they would have to be of that same giving spirit. So that is the whole point. You can take the advice out for a spin. Same thing like with the goal chats. See what resonates, try things out. And if the things work, do them more. And if they don't, move on, because there's plenty more to learn from, which is a great transition into the goal section of the conversation. Woohoo! What goal would you all like to, or would you each like to gift to the audience? So it's been a lot of great information, but if there's one thing you want people to take out for a spin today, tonight, tomorrow, what would that be? So Jeff, what goal are you gifting today?
The biggest goal is fearlessness, because if you don't ask, the answer is no.
Okay, so the goal is to ask.
It's to ask, to be fearless.
Okay. What about you, Jess?
I would gift the goal of knowing as much about yourself in this moment of who you are today, which is different than yesterday, and it'll be different than tomorrow. So you can go out and take that next step, whatever that next step is today.
So basically, it's know thyself so you can conquer the world.
That would be a Deb statement, not a Jess statement. So if you want to put your name on that one, I'm all for that, Deb.
Okay.
That works.
Know as much about yourself in the moment so you can take the next step.
Take the next step from who you are today. How about that?
Okay. Works for me.
Okay.
You're hilarious. Sometimes I get corrected when I'm quoting, when I'm editing for conciseness.
Sure.
I'm good. I would much rather be a just
Yeah.
statement attributed to. Anyway, Dave,
Absolutely.
goal?
Well, Jeff mentioned how some of these relationships or would-be relationships become way too transactional. And my add-on to begging never helped a relationship is never go into a relationship lonely or hungry, especially if you're lonely or hungry, which which seems like a contradiction, but the goal I would give to our audience here is find a way to flip the script so it's not about you. What can you say in that conversation? What can you open it with that will set your role as listener, as giver, as helper, instead of as salesperson, and see what develops?
Okay, I love that because you reminded me, well, for a lot of reasons, but you also reminded me of something I was going to say earlier. So the work that I do with helping people create book proposals to get attention from agents and publishers, I have these conversations with people, clients, whoever will listen all the time, which is you might be writing your book, but your book isn't about you, it's about the reader. So it is about you sharing your expertise in a giving way so the people who, and this is why I'm a big proponent of traditional publishing, because a lot of people who need your words you will never meet in your lifetime. If you've got the reach of traditional, that way it'll get into the hands of more people.
When I work with writers, my first question, or with speakers, my number one question is, what is the transformation? How do you want your reader or your audience to think, feel, or act differently after they've read your book or heard your speech? Because if they can't answer that question, they're probably just trying to find a way to bleed all over the page or the stage and serve themselves. And we just see too much of that.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And sometimes the book someone is writing, the speech they're telling, isn't necessary. They think it's the right one, but it isn't. You need to look into not what are you going to do for me? It's what do I know that's going to help other people, which it's kind of a hilarious not hilarious, but even and especially when I'm working with people who are writing memoirs, it's still about the other person. It's about who needs this information and how is it going to make their life better. So I love the whole flip the script because you're right. It goes back to begging never helped a relationship. We all know people who are desperately looking for jobs who go years without looking for jobs, desperately looking for something that they never get because they're looking at it with desperation. So that could be applied basically to anything, is go with the attitude of the present, of the helpful, and that will definitely flip the script. This has been a lot of fun. And if you are watching live or the replay and you've got a great networking tip or a way that you love to help people or what you do to make sure you are showing up as yourself, please share in the comments. We want you all learning not just from us, but from each other. And this is Go Meet People GoalChat. So where can people learn more about each of you? Dave?
Well, I can be found at remarkable-stories.com, and then I have endless information at speakipedia.com.
Excellent. And Jess, where can people learn more about you?
Tap my name into an AI these days. And if you want to take a listen and hear how I think and what's going on, there's a ton of great information from myself and my guests at the Bold Business Podcast.
Excellent. And Jeff?
They can go to pulver.com or Wikipedia or just ask you.
Or just ask Deb, right? The connector of the dots. Yes, and I am at the Deb Method everywhere. And if you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, you will get everybody's links, their websites, and their LinkedIn. Because we still love it, even though some people use it wrong. And I am live every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can subscribe to GoalChat at your favorite place to get your podcast and at the Deb Method on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. And if you need a little extra encouragement and cheerleading for your goals, you can grab a copy of 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting at your favorite place to buy books. My favorite way to use it is turn to a random page, use it like an oracle, and see what the universe wants you to take out for a spin that day. And if you're interested in writing a book / book proposal, getting it out into more places, thebookproposalexpert.com. Yes. Okay. Friends, oh my goodness, such wonderful information today. I appreciate you all so much for your the generosity of your spirit and being part of the book, but also these conversations. Thank you. Thank you. Where were we? Oh, yes. Final thoughts, people. What do you want to leave people with? Dave, final thought?
I thought that was the final thought.
No, that was the goal.
That was the goal. Okay.
Where people learn about you, and then final thoughts, so we leave people on a yay, go team.
Yeah, final thoughts are just networking comes in many forms. You can meet people in many ways. Think carefully about the ways to meet people that are right for you and the venues that are right for meeting the people who are right for you. Don't just go to endless networking events. That's a recipe for frustration. But think about who you want to meet, where those people are likely to be, and be strategic, and then offer your service to those people. Inspire reciprocity.
Okay. I'm going to have fun making that short and simple, but I think I can do it. No, I love the idea of you want to be cognizant because time is so precious. Figure out your own strategy, as it were, and do the things, the right ones. Awesome. Jess, final thought?
I would say that intuition matters as much as that hard data. So and practice using that little voice that's already inside. We've seen it. We've got all the data in the world. Something's going to pop out for us to ask a question or be curious about. Something's going to stand out that says, we need to dig into this a little bit more. Here's who I need to know, or here's who I can ask for some help. Whatever that is, bring that intuition into the decision-making process.
Awesome. Jeff, you get the final thought.
Oh, look, I think first of all, my final thought is to have the confidence to be who you are. That you spend your entire life discovering you, and when you discover who you are, embrace you and be you. And that's not a trivial thing. That sometimes has a lot of weight to it. And to allow yourself to take yourself into the day, into the flow, into a networking event, to go online, and have the confidence to know that you are who you stand for is a big thing. And my final thought is to be you, be the best you. And just remember, if you're having a hard day, tomorrow is no memory of yesterday. And you can allow yourself to start again, because every day gives you another chance to make a difference and another day to change your path. It's never too late. You have the opportunity to chart your future all the time. Your journey starts now. Good evening, good night, good morning.
Thank you, Jeff. And this is something, I truly believe, there's so little we have control over, but we do have control over ourselves, where we spend our time, what we create. And just being here, just tuning into the conversation, you're already ahead of everybody else. So thank you again, Dave, Jess, and Jeff. Thank you, whether you were watching us live, the replay, listening to us as the GoalChat podcast on the Marketing Podcast Network. We're so glad you're here, choosing yourself and choosing to expand your network by going out to meet new people, going out there and go for it, because we know you can do it.